Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we are going to be talking about one of our favorite subjects here at VCTV, and that is blockchain. But more specifically, we're going to go a level deeper. We're going to look a little deeper at the landscape within blockchain, and we're going to talk about clean tech and environmental tech and where blockchain is starting to play a role when it comes to clean tech and ESG efforts as well. So we'll be getting into sustainability. We'll be getting into climate change. We're going to be getting into a lot of these topics we've covered, but we might have a little bit different of an angle coming from the blockchain perspective today with our guests. And a lot more to share on this subject today, but a few quick notes for you around the blockchain industry, DeFi. We just have new numbers in from DeFi Pulse that the total locked value, TLV, has now reached $38 billion, up from just around 30 billion a week ago. We are continuing to push forward when it comes to the TLV, the total lock value around DeFi projects, and continue to see that effort grow. We also have a number of new venture funds that have released, including for today's topic, one by Iron Man himself, or Robert Downey Jr., who has started a few different ventures in this space to start investing in companies at all levels focused around the ESG and sustainability and impact movements as well. We'll talk about that in just a minute more, but before we do, let's go ahead and get ready to introduce our guests. But first, a big thank you to you, our audience, for tuning in. If you like what you hear, make sure you click subscribe, share the article, and definitely check out the archive on latoken.com to hear from today's speakers and all of the VCTV family speakers as we bring together the best and the brightest to share their thoughts and insights, each and every one of you, on different technologies, industries, and regions around the world. And if you'd like to be on a show like today as an investor or as an entrepreneur to pitch your company, product, or service, reach out to the team and or myself. We'll find that right spot for you. And a big thank you to the LaToken team and to Maria, who make VCTV possible every single day. With that, I'm your host, Kyle. Let's go ahead and jump into today's guests for their introductions. Keith, why don't you kick us off?
Great, thanks. I don't know where the mute button is on the new interface here, but yeah, great to be back. Fantastic. Love coming on VCTV and always love talking about clean tech. I've been investing in clean tech for 20 years now, initially on the corporate side with Mitsubishi and BASF, and then 10 years as general partner of Pangea Ventures. In 2020, I have launched a new firm called Upper Stage Ventures, and we're applying that venture toolkit into more the private equity space, getting involved in companies a little bit later.
Love it. And this is a great point for today's topic, because we do have a number of companies in this space that require a lot of capital to get not just started, but ongoing. And you'll share, I know, along with all of our speakers, a little bit more as to why, but it's great to have good investors like yourself and others who are participating at that later stage, helping those companies continue to grow. Gary Fowler, Grandmaster of Artificial Intelligence himself. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Mr. Fowler, a little intro, a little background for those who may not know.
I feel like the Wizard of Oz here. Anyhow, it's great to be here. Thanks, Kyle. It's great to see familiar faces, friends, Wendy, Tolga, Peter. Good to see you. Raghu. Anyhow, my name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies, bred 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Workforce for $1.35 billion, and also the co-founder of Viva.ai, an AI HR tech company that's located in Silicon Valley, founded by a billionaire David Yang with me. And today I'm the president, CEO, and co-founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios. We curate companies from all over the world, especially impact companies utilizing areas of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, blockchain, to make a little dent in the universe, using Silicon Valley support to take them out. And we do take operational roles in those companies to help them. So great to be here, Kyle, and great to be with friends again. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gary, as well. And next up, Tolga, welcome back to the show. A little intro, a little background.
Thank you, Kyle, for having me once again, and all the familiar faces. I appreciate all you guys being here today. little background. My my career started as I'm a designer, developer, and I started from the bottom. I worked for companies like Spin Master, Electronic Arts. Eventually, I started my own company called Thunderbolt in 2013. My company incubated more than 12 different companies, raised $8.5 million for 3 different ventures. And eventually, I sold my company to an investment company based in Canada in 2019. And I was the CEO of that investment company, New Wave Holdings, until that venture became a publicly traded company in the Canadian Stock Exchange in 2019 October. And after that, I took some time off during the pandemic. And after that, I made a switch, and I jumped into the electric vehicle market, the EV charging market in the industry. And right now, I am the vice president of Loop EV Charging Network. We are the fastest growing electric vehicle charging network in the United States. And I can tell you more about that during our conversations. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tolga. Wendy, welcome back to the show. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Hey there, Wendy, and I'm a partner in 3 funds in the blockchain space: Coin Fund, Crescent Capital, and Black Tower Capital. And I'm a seed and angel and Series A investor myself in my own family office. I have a foundation in 144 countries to empower women in business to alleviate poverty, working with the most successful women entrepreneurs around the world and working with governments and civil society to collaborate to find these solutions to uplift women. And just very excited about this space and where we're going with it. And thank you for having me again. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Wendy. Peter, welcome back to the show. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Okay. Great seeing everybody. Wendy, Gary, everybody. Great to see you. I was able to actually use the new video chain today without too much trouble. So compliments to Maria. I am the executive director of Weimer Family Office. I also have a joint venture with the Fortress Credit Funds. My focus is deploying both debt and equity capital across various industries. Our core is real estate, but we look at alternative energy, clean energy, metals and mining, alternative investments. Obviously, ESG is extremely important to us as a family office. Social impact investing, important. And look forward to a productive chat today. Thanks again, Kyle.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peter. And last but not least, Raghu, welcome back to the show as well. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Thank you, Kyle and VCTV. I'm a serial entrepreneur, angel investor, and strategic advisor based in Princeton, New Jersey. My current interest is decentralized everything: decentralized finance, decentralized security, and decentralized AI. So I'm looking at and de-risked opportunities.
Wonderful. And Raghu, let's jump right in then following your introduction. When we look at ESG, we look at CleanTech, and we look at it in the world of decentralization. How does that picture get painted today as opposed to years previous with new technology, new efforts, and the like that you're looking at?
I mean, decentralization has kind of been brought to the forefront because of the pandemic. We had to do it. So that's a good thing. It's an accelerator. So it started with everything: security and technologies like blockchain, which were already kind of there, are obviously able to leverage that. And just like blockchain brings the transparency aspect, I think the security and some of the other technologies are now catching up. And it's a lot easier to do it because already there is an exemplar technology. So that's how I would look at it. And I think that's going to move forward a lot. Specifically with respect to CleanTech, and I'm interested in plant-based and vegan aspect, that companies addressing that and technologies, as well as clean energy. It's going to move forward a lot. I think there is a lot of opportunity from the supply chain tracking, the transparency in terms of that, because there's a lot of branding, whether it's organic or plant-based, but how do we actually make sure that it is real and it can be authenticated? So that's, I think, one of the areas I'm looking into right now.
It's a good point. And, to further that, Wendy, I want to come to you both as an investor in the blockchain industry as an LP individually, but then also looking at the impact space. Anything further to add on to Raghu's comment, but in general, how are you seeing this space evolve as blockchain starts to make its way into the impact and ESG and sustainability spaces as a whole?
Well, I look at this kind of coming from like the more simpler way of everything, right? And it's like, what's great about this and with GreenTech is that everybody in this world can participate, right? By investing in their own home and looking at LED lighting, et cetera. So I feel, like in the future of where all the money's going is you see a lot of mainstream people, like you've got the co-founder of Apple, right? Who created eForce, which is, his a new company that's investing in green tech. So you see that there's a lot of participation amongst the world where we're all looking at like, oh my God, the world's falling apart. How do we make it a better place, right? And with the Biden administration, really with their focus and getting back in part of the Paris climate change, we see that there's so much more opportunity and enabling everybody to participate in this sector. So I would say, going back with Raghu, I'm, a big fan of, as a lifelong vegetarian and what this is going to do for climate change and for deforestation. And so I think, right now with the world, I think this is probably one of the most important aspects to focus on. And I think blockchain, of course, is going to play a big part of this, especially in the supply chain and showing traceability, transparency. But more important, as we, look at millennials who want to know, where is everything coming from and understanding the storytelling behind that, which blockchain can bring towards this.
I love it. Thank you, Wendy. And Keith, I want to come to you next. I mean, you focus, again, very heavily in the ESG space as a whole, or sustainability. Anything to add on to Raghu and Wendy's points, but furthermore, any thoughts onto how blockchain and other technologies are starting to play a role in this space?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So let's just say that the blockchain is not the only game in town. Absolutely. It is very popular and it's what everybody uses. In fact, I would say that it has taken on the, it's become the CleanTech of software authentication. There are numerous other systems out there, but rather than getting into that, let me just say that there are other alternatives too. One of my portfolio companies is called TrueTag, and they have an authentication system that can tie in with blockchain, but it has the advantage that it is within the product itself. It is they are edible micro silica particles that can be identified even just with your smartphone. Taking a picture, there are visible wavelength resonances that show up and can be identified specifically and then tracked via blockchain or just simple lookup tables, whatever secure system you have, to show the provenance of this particular thing. Because they're edible, they can go in the coating of pills. You can know that specific pill, what batch it came from. Has there been a recall? There can be checks with the doctor to make sure that patients are actually adhering to their meds protocols, etc. Or it can go into food products. It can also go into labels that you don't actually eat. So I love solutions like this that do not separate the actual security layer from the product itself. I'm a big fan of these kind of physical science applications to make our lives better.
Thank you very much, Keith. And you're right, blockchain is not the only name of the game. There is many other technologies that are playing a role. And Gary, coming to you, whether it be artificial intelligence, blockchain, or even quantum, how are you seeing technology being applied in the ESG space, as I'll refer to it for the rest of the show here right now?
Well, I mean, sometimes it's keep it simple, stupid. Companies like Biosolvent out of Brazil are actually using organic compounds. One of the companies that we've looked at recently, organic compounds like coconut husks and those kind of things to be able to absorb the oil and then to be able to take those oil spills and take that oil and reuse it, right? Because a lot of the times they just get rid of it. So, I mean, it's the technology that it's interesting, Kyle. One of the statistics is from 1900 to 2016, the average sea level rose 7.3 inches. But the problem is from 1993 to 2017, it rose 3 inches. So, I mean, this isn't something that we have to just think about in passing. It's a vogue, it's a trend. It's like, this is serious challenges we have across the board. So sea levels going up, temperatures going up, the temperature increasing, melting polar ice caps, gas issues with Antarctica. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. And the beauty above it, as I've said on several of the shows, was the first time we've been able to see the Himalayas in 30 years. Mm-hmm. So there is hope because, with the pandemic, with all the negative parts of the pandemic have come incredible opportunities that we understand we can make an impact. So what I see, this is a lot of it's about Internet of Things, and how do we go down through and actually understand what's happening at what point in time, using artificial intelligence and data warehousing to understand the data, and not only to understand it, to be able to make some course corrections. So, it's really, the big part of it is for people to know that this is actually the kind of impact it's having on our lives. And I'm not sure we really took it seriously before, but when you start to lay it out and talk about the actual statistics, it's funny when you have, we did in Florida, they were saying, oh, sea levels aren't rising. There's no such thing as global warming. Hello. I mean, I had my car down in Hollywood, Florida, and literally, I don't know if I told you the story, but I had my sports car down there and I left it on the side of the road. Thank God I moved it up a little bit. I was between the inlet and the ocean, and all of a sudden the water started going up. There was a full moon, the water went up, and it flooded the truck that was in front of mine. And I went into the guy, I said, dude, this is like crazy. What's going on here? He said, Gary, 10 years ago, what's your name? I said, Gary. He said, 10 years ago, this didn't happen. He said, but this is what's happening with this global warming. So, understanding that there's a problem so we can course correct. I just heard yesterday, again, keep it simple, planting a tree. What's the biggest challenge is, carbon dioxide. So why not go out? Let's start to plant trees. The population of the world will increase from 8.1 billion to 13 billion by the end of the century, right? Let's look at some simple ways to do it, but let's attack the problem. Let's educate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point. In terms of education, Peter, I want to come down to you. I mean, looking at ESG and where you invest from the family's perspective and the family office you work for, but in general, maybe how are you seeing technology play a role in the advancement of ESG opportunities?
Well, I just like to follow on with what Gary said, because I'll use Gary as our expert for helping us understand different technologies for our family office to get involved in. But in all seriousness, education starts not at the workplace. Education starts at home about these issues, and it has to be implemented. There has to be a clear and decisive reason to be ESG compliant in your personal life as well as the work life. We can't rely on governments to force regulations down corporates' throats to get things moving as it applies to ESG. As Kyle, I've been on this discussion many, many times. ESG, not to repeat myself, but ESG is something that's ingrained in a tool set of a credit analyst from the time they start looking at things. E, environment. You're not going to invest in companies that hurt the environment. There's a liability. We have to probability weight that liability of happening. And then what's the total exposure to the company? And there's an exposure not financially, but also morally, ethically, and how that damages the brand of that particular company. We need to look at that. Social responsible investing is obviously at the core of family offices. It's becoming more at the core of other asset managers. We're seeing BlackRock and all the others already starting to talk about that over the last couple of years, but it should be ingrained in the ethos of asset managers from the beginning. And then we look at corporate governance. I've said this time and time again. I don't care if you're Apple. If corporate governance sucks, that company's going bankrupt. So those are the three things in terms of ESG. In terms of education, as I mentioned, starts at the home of being good corporate citizens. And then that has to go filter through from the top of an organization, whether it's a small organization or a large organization, all the ways down to the ground level. In terms of how we're looking at technology, I wasn't joking about using experienced people like Gary and team to give us opportunities for us to look at for investments in our family office and to see how we could put that forward. I would argue Technology doesn't have to be just AI and all the sexy things right now. Technology, as we will see, and I just got off a call, literally, that's why I was late, Kyle, about this. We're looking at the hospitality space. I'm the vice chairman of the GRI Club, which is one of the largest C-suite executives focused on hospitality. And we're talking about implementing technology across the hospitality space. You're no longer going to check in and see a good-looking man or woman checking you in. You're going to check in when you land from your plane, from your iPhone or similar type of tablet. You are going to go right to your room. Your phone will open the door to your room. You want to order room service, it will come from your phone. It might be outside, it might be inside. The room will have more technology than it ever has done, because right now your Lexus, BMW, or Mercedes knows more about you and has more data on you than your house or your or a hotel. Going forward, that won't be the case. They will be in the workplace and offices mandated green. And that's already occurring. If you look at the EU, we're much further ahead than what's going on in the US. As early as 2030 in the UK, there will be mandated carbon neutral buildings. Other parts of the Europe will be 2050. Germany's probably even faster than that. So we're talking about carbon neutrality, about buildings. We're moving to an area in vehicles. We're moving, if you go across Europe, there's electric car stations everywhere, okay? And diesel fuel will be outlawed over the next 2 to 3 years here across Europe, and in particular the UK. There'll be significant taxes if you're using that. So again, technology will be part of our universe. It'll be part of our daily life. And we mentioned on the call yesterday, Kyle, you will see more and more of this type of technology permeating, whether, again, that's AI or simple technology, as I mentioned, to screening individuals in the post-COVID world about their health and well-being. Is their temperature rising? Your home will be able to tell that. A hospital room will be able to tell that. A care home for older people will be able to tell that, and then call the police, call the fire department, call an ambulance. So basically, Siri and Alexa and situations like that will be able to do that among themselves. So that's where we are. And then from a family office, we're looking at the leaders in terms of that technology and how to invest in it. And when I say leaders, it does not necessarily be a multi-billion-dollar company. It could be a small emerging company that's quite nimble that we want to get ahead of.
You bring up a good point that the devices or peripherals in our lives know more about us than we may know about ourselves as well. And I want to come to Tolga next on that from the vehicles perspective. I mean, Tolga, looking at big picture, but really around mobility and how the future of mobility will play a role in ESG. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
For sure. I also want to talk to you about going back to the blockchain subject. Right now, there's the Bitcoin craze is continuing, and I think the cryptocurrencies are gaining so much value. And the reason why this is happening, I think, is because there's so much liquidity in the market. During the pandemic years, there has been more than $6 trillion has been created. I actually learned that this amount is more than 20% of the total dollar amount in the circulation in the entire world. So right now, this liquidity, dollar liquidity, is gonna, I think, pull the dollar value lower, and the cryptocurrencies are gaining so much value. And during this transition, blockchain is extremely important. And in connection to blockchain, the reason why, pretty much we are talking right now, the GreenTech, the CleanTech is extremely becoming valuable just because the government incentives and the rebate programs that are available for the clean vehicle programs and EV charging programs. And right now, we are actually actively, as Loop, we are taking advantage of this very well. Right now, in the past year, We have installed more than 2,000 chargers. We're going to be installing the additional 4,000 chargers in the next only couple months. And these are mostly based on the rebate programs that the government incentives, the state incentives. Right now, there's a big push. I mean, hands down, this is the hottest industry. Electric vehicles and EV charging is only going to grow from here. And right now, there's a big opportunity for investors, for entrepreneurs to be in this industry and really grow their ventures. And right now, as Loop, I think we are playing the game in the right way. You will hear more about us in the next couple months. We're going to be doing a lot of PR, a lot of new news coming up. And during this process, I can only tell you that everything is almost like from my perspective. When I look at things, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, clean energy, electric vehicles, EV charging. Like everything is almost like connected, and this linked chain reaction is actually the beginning. Right now, there's a big push that is pretty much making cryptocurrencies available for masses. Tesla just announced that they're investing $1.5 billion into Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, and these are all these are not happening coincidentally. These are all happening in a chain reaction because there's a massive push right now, and I think entrepreneurs and investors must take advantage of this because this is the opportunity. And from my perspective, everything is so clear, and right now we're in the right path. I think EV charging, electric vehicles is the thing of 2020s. I think until maybe the end of 2030s, I think this is going to be an extremely hot industry. And we are also working in terms of building our platform on blockchain and also making cryptocurrency payments available for our customers so they can actually charge their cars by using cryptocurrency. I'm extremely excited, and I also have my own thoughts and opinions about how this industry can grow. We have our own product roadmap, literally just based on these predictions. So it's extremely hot. It's extremely exciting, and I can tell you more about it in person if you're curious. Yeah.
Absolutely, and we taking us a quick double click there around EV and the EV space. I mean, we've seen a number of companies really focus around leveraging DLT, so the distributed ledger and/or blockchain technology, to do track and trace around electric batteries and making sure that the materials going into these batteries and the batteries of the future, along with other products, but focusing on batteries for a moment, that the raw materials are sustainably sourced and where they're coming from, and having that entire value chain tracked, which is a trend I think we're going to continue to see. And Keith, I want to come back to you on this from a value chain perspective. Are you seeing from value chain into ESG, are you seeing more track and trace around sustainability efforts, providing that transparency for our future supply chains of all products or specific products in what you're seeing?
Well, sure. I mean, it's not within all products. not everybody cares about these issues the same as others. But within the context of your initial question, there certainly when you are talking about the electrification of mobility in general, whether it be in automobiles or it be in other things, certainly there's a big effort going on in rail, in marine, and even in aerospace. There are huge efforts there. The electrification is largely being driven by a desire to be more sustainable, and so yes, the efforts around the traceability of provenance and of environmental sensitivity and sustainability is intricately linked. with the very thing that drives the demand for those products. So absolutely, there's a big effort. Outside of that, it depends on how far afield you go of the drive for sustainability. Certainly in food, we see that absolutely. There is an increasing desire from people to know where their food comes from. We're seeing a big trend towards locally grown food. People are aware of the emissions and energy requirements and other sustainability impacts associated with long transportation of the food. So there's an effort there, and that is largely being driven by environmental concerns, and traceability around food is of concern. Another area of sustainability where we're seeing the beginnings of a trend, but I wouldn't say it's very strong yet, is in fashion. Fashion is one of the largest emitters globally, only eclipsed, I think, by the built environment. Fashion is 13% of all greenhouse gas emissions. It's enormous. And yet most people are very happy with their fast fashion, their HMV or whatever it is, which is not made sustainably. The collection bins that they have, which they say is going to go into recycling or donation, up to 80% of all of that is just landfilled. There's enormous problems there. And that just shows you that people just don't care. They mostly just want to go and look good and look current. Nevertheless, there is a drive around fashion. When I gave my talk at Davos a year ago on sustainability in fashion, it was extremely well attended. There's awareness from the top brands, including the one that I mentioned, around this. They know that they can do a better job. They do expect this to become a bigger driver for consumers in the future.
Absolutely. And, all jokes aside, but we got to look good on these Zoom calls all day, every day as well. But to your point, looking sharp today, Keith. I appreciate the added dress shirt today. You got the collar on. It's it's professional. We're professional here at VCTV. I want to come back to you real quick. So you at Upper Stage Ventures, you're focusing on that later stage. Is there anything you're looking at in particular, or what's a big trend in the later stage game right now as an investor? What are you seeing that's really catching your eye at the later stage versus the early stage right now?
Well, to be honest, what drove this is that we see there are a lot of companies out there that have good commercial products, but lack the vision and ambition to go after their large international market. We see this as playing out across all geographies. I've looked at hundreds and hundreds of examples. There's lots here. One theme that we are closely tracking is in the supply chain, where there are companies that have come up with solutions, perhaps for clients or for their own needs, and those solutions actually are really good and can make huge economic impact for clients everywhere. And yet they're not pursuing the rollout of these things internationally. That's something that we see as a very exciting space where we can really make a difference, get in at a company that is perhaps performing nicely as a lifestyle business, but drastically underperforming relative to its potential.
And with that, Raghu, I want to come to you on the same question. Thank you, Keith. As you're looking at companies and more specifically, around that security or decentralized everything, as you said earlier in the beginning, where are you seeing the most excitement right now as an investor that you're focusing your time and effort on in terms of making investments in the space?
Absolutely. Before I get to that, I wanted to make the point that Tolga made about all of us being connected, and what Gary was talking about the Himalayas. As we all know, I wanted to bring attention to that melted glacier, which broke a dam and created a lot of destruction in northern India, in the Uttarakhand area. And it's related to climate change, although the conspiracy theory is going on as well. So we are all connected is kind of the important thing. And I think from that perspective, right now, I'm working on two in the energy space. One is glass that can be triggered to become a two-phase area where it can either let through heat or block heat, so that based on the climate you could make it energy efficient in terms of how from the energy efficient homes as well as corporate buildings. Architectural glass is a $70 billion market, and this is a simple technology that can be applied to existing buildings. So that is one we are trying to scale it up from pilot to commercialization, and look forward to talking to some of the people on this panel as well about that. The company is called IR Dynamics. It's out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. The other company in the energy space that I'm working with is called Settle Energy out of Boston, and they are building essentially a consolidation of the biodiesel, the smaller plants, and improving the technology to second and third generation instead of just using soybean oil, which there are also better crops, energy crops, but they're trying to get it to use things that will go into the landfill, like used cooking oil, stuff like animal fat and brown grease and stuff like that from factory farming. I think that there's a huge incentives, as Tolga was mentioning, and I think Peter was mentioning as well. And there is a huge arbitrage between US and Europe, because Europe has there's the much more aggressive in terms of getting rid of diesel and stuff like that. So I think California here has very aggressive targets as well. So for instance, specifically with biodiesel, for every gallon of biodiesel, which is about $1.25 here, California gives a $2 credit, and of course the IRS gives a dollar credit. So we're talking about 3x, increase on top incentives. And then if you talk about the arbitrage with Europe is something like $4 per gallon. So including the transportation costs, there's still a huge arbitrage. So this company that I'm working with is in that space. And again, this is not like a long-term growth type of investment. You can get in, and within like 3 months, the cash flow starts, and it's after that it is as it should be, supported by government subsidies as well. So I think those are two areas that I'm busy with right now. I'm also working on an exit, which I hope happens soon, which will let me take a deeper position in both these companies.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Raghu. Gary, I want to come back to you. I mean, same with you. You're looking at companies on a global scale right now, mostly at the early stage, but some at the much later stage. What is getting you excited, and maybe what regions around the world are you seeing really put forth an effort on these areas around ESG?
Well, a couple of things, Kyle. I want to say, was it 2 days ago? Sunday, actually. I had the pleasure of talking to somebody that's got 44 billion, I guess, right now in Bitcoins. And I mean, we got to tap people that have this newfound wealth, companies that, have transitioned over, that really want to do some impact investing. So from my standpoint, in fact, this morning I had a call with one of the board members of Philips out of the Netherlands. And so, we're focusing on, there's a great amount of opportunity in Africa, right, for startups that are into CleanTech and GreenTech and sustainability. So one of the things is education. I'm not sure we've done that good a job from my own perspective of, because it's really connect the dots, right? How do we find those companies, and how do we actually find the people that passionately, like the family office, like Pear's, Peter's, the one that he runs, that, can point him in the right direction. So things like VCTV and bringing the startups on here really, really is important. And so, in terms of the from my own personal standpoint, we're looking for, obviously, everything is connected together, as Raghu said, and we got to make our own little dent in the universe, each one of us. And so, from my own personal standpoint, finding those companies that we can help in a whole lot of different ways that want to go global, that are working on these problems, the clean tech problems, the blockchain problems as related to clean tech and green tech. And, look at the other side. Agriculture puts about 10% of the greenhouse gases in the U.S. out. So technologies that we have, like 3D printing of meat, more vegetables, things that aren't going to use as much greenhouse gases. The good news is, because of Keith and some of the things that he's invested in, we're moving in that direction. It's just not fast enough. And unfortunately, we learned a lesson too late.
It's a very, very good point, and kind of why I want to switch gears now into where the opportunities are. So looking on a global scale, because it sounds like, these are not necessarily local type problems to focus on, but they are very global in their efforts. And want to hear from each of you as we come close to the top of the hour. So your closing thoughts, where are the opportunities that people should be focusing on, one or two, over the next 12 months, if either investing or building, and then of course, where you can be found online. So Tolga, I'm going to come to you first on this one. So what is an area or two of opportunity that investors and founders can focus on around ESG here in the next year? And then where can you and Luke be found online for those wanting to continue the conversation around EV?
Thank you, Kyle. I think, I personally think I'm invested into EV charging, and I personally think that, EV charging is going to be a massive decentralization of the energy industry. I mean, the current traditional oil industry is going to remain, but the power that the oil industry that has right now is going to collapse, and right now that's going to almost decentralized, because business owners, restaurant owners, parking lot owners, these people are getting empowered with believe it or not, these people are going to be empowered with the energy industry, because they will have a space, they can use their space to get these EV chargers to be installed. Apartment buildings, apartment complexes, commercial buildings, like I said, restaurants, parking lots. These properties are gonna be more valuable just because they are gonna be offering energy to everyday drivers. Electric vehicles are gonna be everywhere, and people will need an access for electric vehicle charging everywhere. So I think the opportunity is in EV charging. There's a big, massive opportunity in EV charging, and I think dismissing it will be probably foolish. And I think one of the other reasons why this is extremely valuable is simply because of the government incentives and the rebate programs. It's just not millions, billions of dollars that we're talking about, and this is a massive amount. And right now, like I said, we are taking advantage of this, and we are going to take advantage of this even further in the coming years. I think this is going to be like a snowball effect. It's just going to continuously increase. We're just in the beginning. So I think that anyone, investors who are interested, I can share more information, and I can also tell more about the competition on the industry, and also the future of the industry. I can share more details if anyone is curious. But just to keep it short, I think I should tell you that you guys can reach out to me from my LinkedIn, Tolga Onuk, my website, tolgaonuk.com. Our new website, evloop.io, is going to be published probably at the end of this week or next week. So I'm extremely excited about this. I'm going to post that actually all around. Please reach out to me if you want to learn more about EV charging.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tolga. Gary, to you, same question. One opportunity, where can you be found online?
Yeah, so this is a opportunity that we need to be able to change the lives of our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So it's not like if we do it, it's how soon we do it. So you can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn, Twitter. I'd love to hear from you. And also, Kyle, we talked about on the show, just a little plug about people moving to Miami. So I got the mayor of Miami Beach to be on my show next week. And we talked about Bitcoin. I've got a guy that's worth $47 billion in Bitcoin to agree to be on my show too, Khurram Sharaf from the Dubai. So instead of guessing about it, he's involved in Ethereum, most of the cryptocurrencies, you can ask the question directly. So I'll send you a link. And keep the questions coming, because we're going out to be able to find the people that can answer them.
I love it. There you go. If you're looking to move to Miami, enjoying the revolution that's happening in South Beach, tune into Gary's show. Keith, same question to you. Where can you be found online, but also one or two areas of opportunity people need to focus on this year?
Sure. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn or follow me on Twitter at Keith A. Gillard. I want to come back to what Tolga mentioned there and bring it in the context of the theme of this show. I think that the electrification of mobility is a huge trend, which we're seeing in automotive ahead of other areas, but we are seeing it in all mobility. And the ability of blockchain and other technologies to give us provenance on where those electrons came from to charge those vehicles and those fleets, that is important. And that's something that people will increasingly begin to care about. Right now, you have a zero emission vehicle. That's great, yeah. But what if the electrons that went into your vehicle are associated with enormous emissions because they burned coal in order to generate that electricity? That is something that we now have the ability to look through. What was the supply chain? What was the provenance that led to this vehicle to be charged so that you can drive it and have your little sticker that allows you to go in the fast lane or whatever it is that you care about, your bragging rights? Do you really have zero emissions associated with that? So that's something that I think is absolutely a place where blockchain and other technologies can play a role. But the enabling technology, besides that gets us there, is storage. We need reliable energy storage. This is an area where I've invested. Also, as I've gone on about in other CleanTech discussions here on VCTV, it is one of those areas that lends itself very well to a service business model. And this is a place where startups and large companies can make enormous margins while creating huge value for all of their customers and indeed for the end user that is driving that electric vehicle. Energy storage allows us to move to a truly sustainable zero or ultra low emission reality for energy.
Yes, thank you so much, Keith. Absolutely agreed. Raghu, finish us out. One area of opportunity, and where can you be found online to continue the conversation as well?
Sure. As we said, not only is everything connected, but everything is cyclical. So we need this whole renewable, circular economy. It's not enough just to. We have to clean up what we did in the past. We have to continue have practices in the present, and we need to make sure the future is the sustainability, the whole angle, right? So I am looking at I think supply chain solutions that help with circular economy. So blockchain is extremely important, and I agree with Keith that energy storage is extremely important because to balance out all the different types of energy we have available and to meet the demands as well. I've been in the energy storage area for over 10 years now, and I think that is another renewed focus for me. I can be found on LinkedIn at Raghu S. Rao, and look forward to having more discussions with people who are interested in these spaces.
Absolutely. Raghu, Keith, Gary, Tolga, Wendy, and also Peter, thank you all for sharing your thoughts and insights around today's topic. A lot more to be had as we continue the conversation, opening up the landscape that is blockchain and looking at these different categories within and sharing our thoughts and insights along with on-the-ground perspective from as investors and also builders in this space as well. So thank you so much, audience, for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, share, and make sure you check out the archive as well on latoken.com to hear not just more from our speakers today, but the entire VCTV family of speakers and investors from around the world. As again, we bring the best and the brightest to share their thoughts around different technologies, industries, and regions on the world to help educate you as investors and entrepreneurs. And if you'd like to be on a show like today's, do reach out to the team and or myself, and we'll find that right spot for you. Speaking of team, a big thank you to the Latoken team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me along with all of our speakers today online 24/7, 365 on all respected social media platforms. When you do reach out, we'd love to hear from you, but make sure you add context, where you heard us, what you would like to continue the conversation about as well, so we can have an efficient conversation in this lovely digital age that we are all a part of today. With that, we'll be back here with a little bit more VCTV in just a short little break. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.